Hello, everyone. This is Rogers Harrison along with Brian Koperick, and welcome to the Sports Deep Dive Podcast. Deep Dive Podcast is a Podbean presentation, and it comes to you commercial free. That way you can either get on with your day if you're listening to it in the beginning of the day, or you can end your day on hopefully a pleasant note. Before we get into today's topic, Brian, how are you?
I am wonderful, Rogers. How are you?
I'm doing well. Today on Sports Deep Dive, we're going to talk about Charles Finley.
Awesome.
All right. Charles Finley may be familiar to some of you, and to some of you he may not be, so we're going to talk about him. Mr. Finley, known as Charles Oscar Finley, but sometimes went as known as Charlie O, was born on February 22nd in 1918. He was born in Birmingham, Alabama, but he was raised in Gary, Indiana, and later lived in LaPorte, about 60 miles east of Chicago. Mr. Finley made his fortune in the insurance business. He was among the first to write group medical insurance policies for those in the medical profession.
Huh.
Yeah, and you're like, well, what does it have to do with sports? I know that's what you're thinking.
That's not what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, because behind every great sports team, there's somebody that made money somewhere else.
That's right. He was a very good businessman. For instance, in 1956, he purchased a home built in 1942, just north of Pine Lake in LaPorte, Indiana. The property was a working cattle ranch, which consisted of an 18th century 11-room colonial manor house and 9 barns.
Oh.
Get your head out of the gutter, okay?
You said bars.
No.
I was like,
Come
okay.
on, barns.
He liked to drink a lot.
No, barns. Oh, my gosh. But let's get in. So businessman likes to spend money.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about now what he wanted to spend his money on and eventually did spend his money on. You ready?
I'm ready. Tell me more.
Mr. Finley had tried multiple times to buy the Kansas City Athletics.
Okay.
They were in Kansas City at the time. They did not move to the West Coast until 1968. Now, he first attempted to buy the Philadelphia Athletics in 1954. But instead, the American League owners approved the sale to the team to Arnold Johnson, who moved the club to Kansas City for the 1955 season. So we don't know if Mr. Finley would have kept the team in Philadelphia, but if I know my history about the Athletics, I think the writing was on the wall as far as they needed to get out because they were not as popular as the Phillies. In 1956, he tried again, but this time it was for your team.
The Tigers?
The Tigers. He tried to buy the Tigers, but was once again unsuccessful. They instead were sold, this was 1956, instead they were sold to a Michigan-based group led by broadcasting magnates John Fetzer and Fred Knorr.
Okay.
In 1959, when Dorothy Kaminsky Rigney put her majority holdings of the White Sox up for sale, Finley lost out again to a group headed by Bill Veeck.
Okay.
All right. And then 1 year later, which would be 1960, he was among a group of contenders for the American League expansion franchise earmarked for Los Angeles, which we now know today is the Los Angeles Angels. But Gene Autry ended up the founding principal owner of that team.
So he just can't make it happen.
He wants to own a baseball franchise, it seems.
Yeah, he's tried, 4 times at this point?
He tried with the Philadelphia A's. He tried with the Detroit Tigers. He tried with the White Sox. And he tried with the Los Angeles Angels.
Wow. Apparently he doesn't even care where it's at either. He just wants one.
He wants one. He wants one, and it seems that he's going after American League clubs. I don't know if that has anything to do or not. I guess the National League. I guess the National League clubs weren't for sale. All right. So remember, he tried to go with the Philadelphia A's.
Right.
And but it was sold to Arnold Johnson, who moved the team to Kansas City and became the Kansas City Athletics. Well, on March 3rd, 1960, Arnold Johnson died suddenly at the age of 54. He had a cerebral hemorrhage.
Okay.
And so he died at 54. Now, the Athletics were struggling through last place that season, and they were being operated by Johnson's estate.
Okay.
So he died unexpectedly. The Athletics were basically in last place, and his estate had to run it for the rest of the season. So, just weeks after he had lost his bids for the Angels franchise, on December 19th of 1960, Mr. Finley purchased the estate's controlling interest in the Athletics.
Ooh.
Hooray! He finally has a baseball team.
And he's the controlling owner.
And it's the franchise that he originally set his sights on, which was the Athletics. He then bought out the minority owners years later. But, I mean, hey.
Here we go.
So, basically, from 1961 onward, Finley was his own GM. I mean, the A's had somebody with the title as GM, but Finley was...
He didn't go after 5 teams or 4 teams to just let somebody else run it. Now
comes the tricky part. So he's bought the team, and he's got it for the 1961 season onward, right? He's basically the GM. And they have a GM on thing, but that GM doesn't last until about 1966, and then Finley's just like, all right, well,
I'm running the team.
But he's trying to move the team now.
Oh.
Remember, they're in Kansas City.
Right.
In January of 64, he reached agreement with Louisville to move the team there for the 64 season, and he signed a 2-year lease on a stadium there.
Okay.
Now, fast forward to 2025, Louisville has a minor league team, AAA team, and they are called the Louisville Bats, and they are the AAA affiliate of the Cincinnati Reds.
Okay.
So just a little side thing there. Now when that move was blocked by the American League, and they like to do to Mr. Finley, he began entertaining offers, and 2 cities that he would get offers from were Denver and San Diego. And a little side note, San Diego got its first baseball team in 1969 when the Padres entered the American League.
Okay.
And the Denver got its franchise in 1993 when the Colorado Rockies entered.
It was that late, huh?
Well, they had a AAA team until then.
Okay.
All right. Finley replaced the Athletics' traditional elephant mascot with a live mule. He named it Charlie O. And it paraded around the outfield, into cocktail parties, hotel lobbies, into the press room, basically to annoy reporters. In 1976, the mule died at the age of 20.
Well, that's a pretty
so
good
see,
life.
all right, so you got this guy who made his money as a businessman, and now he's trying to take some of that business sense, I guess, and to the franchise. So I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but the Athletics uniforms are green and gold.
Right.
Not many teams have those colors. The Green Bay Packers are one.
Yeah.
That comes to my mind. A lot of teams have red, white, and blue.
Blue and gold.
Yeah, something like that. The Colorado Rockies, we mentioned before, have purple
and black.
And they have purple and black, so they're kind of different.
Yeah.
There are a couple of teams that have a teal, like the Hornets and the Seattle Kraken. The Charlotte Hornets and the Seattle Kraken. But everybody back then, in the early '60s, was basically just red and blue or something like that, right? Well, in 1963, Mr. Finley changed the team's colors to Kelly green and Fort Knox gold.
Okay.
All right, that's the official thing. Also wedding gown white. Because you had to have
right.
Color, right? So here we go. Kelly green, Fort Knox gold, wedding gown white. Woo! In 1967, he replaced the team's traditional black spikes with white, and the Athletics wear white spikes today, or white shoes. He also started phasing out the team name Athletics in favor of A's.
Right.
Which is funny because in 2025, they want to be known as the Athletics because they don't have a city associated with them.
Right.
While they're playing in Sacramento. They don't want to be known as the Sacramento A's.
Right.
And they don't want to be known as the Las Vegas A's, and they can't be known as the Oakland A's, so they're just the Athletics. If you look at a baseball schedule, you got the abbreviations, and they're ATH on the schedule. So he's making some changes. He changed the uniform. He got the Charlie O Mule. He's got them wearing white shoes or white spikes when everyone else is wearing black. He's trying to
differentiate them from everybody else.
All right.
Marketing.
Well, let's talk marketing, shall we?
Okay.
All right. Now, the Beatles, I don't know if you've heard of them, the rock group, the Beatles.
Yeah, once or twice.
Yeah, the Beatles were touring the U.S. in the summer of '64, basically August and September. And so, because it was the summer, they were playing in outdoor venues and that type of thing. So Mr. Finley wanted them to come to Kansas City to perform at Municipal Stadium. And he took a look at their tour schedule, and he saw, well, they've got an open date. Why don't I try to get him here? He offered to pay the Beatles $150,000, which would be let's go with today. It'd be around $1,500 million or something along those lines, right? In today's money, he wanted them to come to Municipal Stadium on September 17th, 1964. It's going to pay the $150,000. And that day, because they had a day off that day, right? And he started printing up tickets. Read Charles O. Finley is pleased to present for the enjoyment of the Beatle fans in America, the Beatles in person. and he showed it, and he also but all right. So John Lennon was quoted as saying that he disliked Finley's attempt to basically strong-arm the Beatles into playing longer than their standard half-hour concert set. The Beatles' $150,000 at the time was considered a record for a one-night stand appearance.
But he wanted them to play longer than half the hour.
So, all right. So what Finley did is he went and visited the group's manager, Brian Epstein, in San Francisco in August of '64, where the Beatles were playing. That was the first date of their tour.
Okay.
And then he told Epstein, why aren't the Beatles part of why isn't Kansas City part of your tour? He offered $50,000 first, and then $100,000 if they would schedule a concert in KC. Epstein refused. The only free date that they had available was September 17th, and the band was scheduled for a day of rest in New Orleans. Finley encountered Epstein again in Los Angeles a week later, and they agreed on $150,000.
Like, we'll give up our rest day if you just give us a crap ton of money.
Yeah.
Back up the truck.
And then, like I said, he wanted them to play more than just half an hour, which I would have to agree with Mr. Finley on this one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what concerts, if you go to a concert now, they're a couple hours, right?
Well, half an hour is what the warm-up act does.
Exactly.
I
exactly.
mean,
you get an hour from
right.
the
or
headliner.
At least an hour.
Exactly, and then move on.
I mean, half an hour, people are still finding their seats.
Right. Right.
Like, good night, everybody. What? I just got here.
You could wait in the beer line for a half hour.
So I told you before that he was looking to move.
Right.
They moved to California in January of 1968.
Okay.
So, all right. So here's the thing: is that Kansas City, as you know, is it's a nice city. I mean, it's a good city. They have minor league baseball there. They have the NFL there. They have minor league hockey.
Yep.
And as far as I know, they do not have any form of basketball. And I'm not sure about that, so KC fans, get on me if I'm wrong. But minor league hockey, the NFL, and Major League Baseball with the Kansas City Royals. But California, man. I mean, California was booming.
Right.
And that's where the dough was. I mean, the Dodgers and Giants moved out there in 58. The Padres were an expansion team in 69. The Angels were an expansion team in 60, as we know. So, I mean, Mr. Finley was like, I got to get out there.
That's where I'm going to make some money.
And I'm surprised that before, I mean, the Angels were born in 60, like we talked about earlier. And I'm surprised that they didn't have a traveling partner. Because when the Dodgers and Giants moved out to California, so they would have a traveling partner.
Okay.
So you wouldn't have to make all the trip just for the Dodgers and then have to go all the way back. You could
go see another team.
Yeah,
while you're
play
there.
Another team. Well, I'm talking about teams.
Yeah.
You could play another team. And then 69, when the Padres came, well, you had more options on the West Coast as well. So it's surprising to me that the American League didn't put somebody to be the Angels' traveling partner, for instance. But anyway, so California, January of 1968, they moved. They go from being the KC A's, Kansas City A's, to now the Oakland A's. in Oakland, you may have know about Reggie Jackson.
Exactly.
You may know about Burt Campanis.
Yeah.
You may know about Sal Bandino. You may know about Cashfish Hunter, Rolly Fingers, Vita Blue, Ricky Henderson. I mean,
Jose Canseco.
Well, okay, yes.
Mark McGuire.
Right. I mean, the A's were very popular.
Yeah.
At the time when they were in Oakland, and then they've they were once a very proud franchise, I guess is what I'm saying. And in years they haven't been as much, but they've still been supported by Oakland. But unfortunately, their current owner wants to move them away from Oakland.
He wants to go to Vegas.
Eventually Vegas, because that seems to be the gold mine these days.
Exactly, right? I mean, how many sports teams have tried to move there recently? Quite a few.
Well, two.
Well, that's quite a few.
One has moved there.
Right.
That would be the Raiders, and then they're an expansion team, the Golden Knights.
Exactly.
Exactly. They were an expansion team. They didn't move there.
That's true.
All right, let's talk about one of their players, because this gives you, like I said, Mr. Finley had that business sense. All right, 1971, Vita Blue, the pitcher, joined the A's. He had a great rookie season. He went 24-8. He earned $14,000 his rookie season. So that winter, obviously he went 24-8. He only earned $14,000, and so he was thinking, "Hey, I want to get more money." So, like I said, he was thinking, "Hey, I want to get more money." So he was thinking maybe I'm looking for a salary of like $92,500.
Okay.
To go from 14 to 92.5. Of course, that's
a big jump.
That is a big jump, and hopefully, I don't know if he was expecting to negotiation or something. So he held out because he wanted that, and so he missed much of the 1972 season. Eventually, Vita Blue and Charles Finley settled at $63,000.
That's still a pretty good salary for that time, and for
he did, like I said, he missed most of the 1972 season, and so
that hurt him probably.
Well, yeah. So we fast forward to 1976. Vita Blue goes 18-13 in the 76 season. 2.35 ERA. He told reporters at the time, and I'm going to quote here, "I hope the next breath Charlie Finley takes is his last.
Oh my gosh.
I hope he falls flat on his face and dies of polio." And that was in 76. In 1977, only 2 years after winning a fifth straight division title and 3 years after winning a third consecutive World Series, the A's finished in last place in the division with one of the worst records in baseball. After the 77 season, Finley tried to trade or sell Vita Blue, this time to the Reds. The commissioner at the time vetoed, saying it was amounted to a fire sale. And the commissioner also said the addition of Blue, because this is 77, to already formidable Reds pitching staff would make a mockery of the National League West, because the Reds would just dominate.
Right.
Wow. Yep.
The league just stepping in and not letting them do it.
All right. So remember we talked about Denver before, and he was entertaining offers for trying to get.
Oh yeah.
Remember, trying to move the A's to Denver. 1988. I'm sorry. In 1980, Finley agreed in principle to sell to a businessman, Marvin Davis, who planned to move the Athletics to Denver. However, just before Finley and Davis were due to sign a contract, the NFL's Oakland Raiders announced they were moving to Los Angeles in 1982. And then Oakland, so the city of Oakland did not want to be held responsible for losing Oakland's stature as a big league city, refused to let the A's out of their lease with the Coliseum.
They're like, we'll save this. We just won't let you out.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how history kind of repeats itself?
Yeah.
Kind of thing?
Yeah.
So Finley was forced to sell to local buyers, and he agreed to sell the A's to Walter A. Haas Jr., president of Levi Strauss and Company.
Okay.
And that was in August of 1980 for $12.7 million.
That's chump change in today's.
Mm-hmm. The deal was finalized before the 81 season. Mr. Finley was asked to remain with the new owners as a vice president or a mentor. And under new management, the A's made the playoffs in 1981.
Woohoo!
Yeah. All right. So here's some of the things that that he did as far as marketing, because I told you he was a businessman, had the business set, and wanted his A's to stand out. We already talked about the color scheme.
Right.
We talked about the white spikes. He tried orange baseballs.
Okay.
She tried in a few exhibition games, but the hitters found it too hard to pick up, you know, as it was traveling to pick up the spin, so to speak. And if you ever want to know what that looks like, in August 18th, 1975, the cover of Time magazine had a picture of Charles Finley and his orange baseballs.
Oh.
So, I mean, you can imagine whether, because I think softball doesn't softball use some
They have
orange?
some orange and some like bright yellow, bright green.
Yeah,
ones.
so just think of those as a mechanical rabbit. Mechanical rabbit would pop up behind home plate, deliver new balls to the umpire, and was named Harvey.
Okay.
And Harvey made his debut in Kansas City, and then was brought over when they moved the team to Oakland.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
He hired Stanley Burrell. Have you heard of that name before?
Yeah.
Who's Stanley Burrell?
We did a podcast on him, didn't we?
No.
No?
No. Stanley Burrell would later become known as rapper MC Hammer.
Oh, okay. That's why I knew the name. I got you.
He hired Stanley Burrell to be an executive vice president when Stanley was just a teenager. He wanted someone to be his, quote, eyes and ears. See, this is all some crazy. All right.
Yeah.
He offered players $300 bonuses to grow mustaches during the 1972 baseball season.
Oh.
And Rollie Fingers took him up on it. And, you know, Rollie Fingers has that famous handlebar mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that became...
That's where it came from, huh?
That's what he came from. Finley purchased the Oakland Seals of the National Hockey League in 1970, renaming the team the California Golden Seals. Mimicking the A's, he changed the team colors to green and gold. And he had the Seals wear white skates instead of traditional black, which the players and the fans did not like. Because white skates are traditionally used or worn by women.
In figure skating.
in figure skating, right? And so the NHL players are like, no.
We're not wearing women's skates.
We're not wearing them. Obviously, the Oakland Seals have moved on and are no longer part of the National Hockey League. 1970, so the same year, he purchased the Memphis Pros of the American Basketball Association, the ABA, and he changed the name to the Memphis Tams, the name being an acronym for Tennessee, Arkansas, and Mississippi.
Oh.
And as was the case with the A's and the California Golden Seals, he changed the colors to green and gold.
This man had a thing for green and gold.
Guess who he hired as the team president of the Memphis Tams?
I don't know. Who?
Adolph Rupp.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He had just retired from coaching, coaching the Kentucky Wildcats, for those of you who don't know. Hired him as team president. After the first season, he sold both of those teams and returned to baseball.
Okay. It was like, no.
In 87, he proposed a new football league. The league would merge with the Canadian Football League and be renamed the North American Football League. The American cities would be made up of those that lost out on the USFL. Finley represented the Chicago team.
Okay.
The USFL's Arizona Outlaws had already come out in support of the idea of playing in the CFL as an American team, and had certain executives with the Memphis. So the Memphis Showboats and the Arizona Outlaws had already thought of this idea. It's like, yeah, we could play in the CFL as American
for the
cities.
North American League.
CFL insisted upon a minimum $20 million per year television contract to even consider this idea. Finley was optimistic that a contract could be secured, but all the networks rejected the plan. Which is funny because today we've got summer leagues and we've got, Fox and I think NBC.
That are invested in those?
In the XFL and the the UFL, I think is what it's known, because the USFL and the XFL merged to form the UFL. All right, so let's talk about his final years. Finley lived his final years on his farm in LaPorte. Remember the working cattle ranch?
Yep.
He died at the age of 77 on February 19th, 1996, just 3 days before his 78th birthday.
Okay.
He had suffered from heart disease and had been admitted 2 weeks earlier to the Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago. So that is just a deep dive into Charles Oscar Finley. Businessman, sports owner, and
major lover of baseball.
Yeah, and tried to do anything to market his team.
The Savannah Bananas of the 60s and 70s.
The Savannah Bananas?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he tried to market them, but Bill Veeck also was a marketer, and then Ted Turner later, when he would own the Braves. But that's it, Mr. Finley. What do you think, Brian?
That was really interesting. As a huge Mark McGwire fan, of course, I followed the A's, during that period of time. So
I thought you were a Tigers fan.
Definitely a Tigers fan. I followed the A's because of Mark McGwire at that time when he played for them.
So when the A's played the Tigers, who'd you root for?
The Tigers.
Okay.
Yep. Actually, I saw the A's play the Tigers 4 times at Tiger Stadium. And I shook Mark McGwire's hand on the top of the dugout on the Tigers side.
How old were you when that happened? Were you a teenager?
Maybe. Yeah. I saw him and Canseco play there, and then I'm wanting to think Ricky Henderson, maybe earlier. Did Ricky play when Chet Lemon and them played? Probably. Think so.
Yeah, he played in the 70s and then come back later.
Yeah. So it would have been like early 80s or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was with the Yankees by then.
Because at that point in my life, I spent a lot of time in the summers up in Michigan with my family up there, and they would take us to Tiger games all the time. And it was really cool because...
Was it Northern Michigan? Did you see Chris Rock?
No, not Northern Michigan.
Okay.
No. Around the Detroit area. But we would go to Tiger games, and back then you could get there early to watch batting practice. And if you were there during batting practice, it was acceptable for younger kids to get down on top of the home dugout, hang your feet off the dugout while they're doing BP, and the players would all come by and give you baseballs or just, shake your hand or whatever. It was really,
nice.
Really neat. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up this edition of the Sports Deep Dive podcast. Brian, where can people find you if they want to see you?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube and Facebook, as well as TikTok and Instagram at Random Things with BK.
All right. And that's like a YouTube series on DIY stuff, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. I am a lover of sports, as you know. That's why I have this podcast, and I can be found on Blue Sky as 318 North. So until next time, have a great day, and so long, everyone.